So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a little bit of a workshop this morning. And well, I guess we do that every time. We always like to be reflective. I'm not here just to talk at you or preach at you. We want there to be some interaction here. So what I want to do is just quickly go over some of the things that we talked about this a little bit last week. I'm curious to see if anyone's gonna remember what we talked about. We'll see. We'll see. I'll recap it just a little bit. So we talked about Ecclesiastes chapter 11. Really, really, really powerful chapter of the Bible for your finances. And in verse 4, remember it said, "He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap." So we talked about farmers that wait for the perfect weather are never going to plant. And if you're watching every cloud, you're never going to harvest. So it's really easy to have analysis paralysis, overthink things, wait for the right time. By the way, a really, really good book if you guys are looking for some way to score points for the games, the Good and Faithful games, and you just want a quick, easy win. There's such a cute little fun book called Who Moved My Cheese? Has anyone here ever read that book? Okay. Really good book. Okay. I highly recommend it because the cheese has been his cheese has moved in 2024 and it will keep moving. But one of the points of the book, I'm not going to give it away, is that if you look at a mouse, right, compared to a human being, right, when the cheese moves, the mouse just moves, right? The mice don't sit there and go, "Oh man, this isn't fair. Does God not love me? What's going on? I thought I was praying and everything's going wrong and this is so hard and I'm never going to be able to find cheese again and why did it have to move so soon and why couldn't it stay longer and I don't know, should I keep looking for cheese? Should I stay? Maybe it's going to come back. What someone tell me, what do mice do? Right? They just go immediately start. If the cheese is gone, they're going to start going throughout the maze and trying to find a different place to find the cheese, right? They don't overthink things. They don't overanalyze things. And what's one of the funny parts of the book and the whole story is, human beings, we can just overcomplicate things and make things a little bit more difficult, especially because we have this thing called fear, right? And most of our fears are completely illegitimate. They're never going to happen. 97, 98% of the time, the fears that pop into your head are never going to actually materialize, right? They're just absolutely ridiculous. Now, some of them fear can be a healthy thing. It's not good to get rid of all fear, but most fear is not worth listening to. You guys tracking with me? Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about fear this morning. And so the verse from last week was I felt like was very helpful for that. But also another one that I wanted to point out, which I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with. Anyone here know about the parable of the talents, the parable of the minas? Right? They both have the same point. But I'm just going to go ahead and read that for us real quick in Matthew 25 because it's really helpful when we think about fear getting in the way of what we want to do for our master. Okay? We're going into 2025. Anybody here want to drag fear into 2025? I don't think so, right? So let's not drag it in. But first, we have to isolate it in our own lives so that we can then overcome it. So I'm going to read it, Matthew 25, verse 14, parable of the talents. So, for it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one he gave 5 talents, to another two, to another one, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. He who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made 5 talents more. So also he who had the 2 talents made 2 talents more. But he who had received the 1 talent went and dug in the ground and hid his master's money. Uh-oh. Right. Now, after a long time, the master of those servants came and settled accounts with them. And he who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 talents more, saying, Master, you delivered to me 5 talents. Here, I made 5 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. How many of you, that's the only thing you care about achieving in this life ultimately, right? That's all I want. Well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. And he also, who had the 2 talents, came forward saying, Master, you delivered to me 2 talents. Here, I've made 2 talents more. His master said to him, Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little. I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master. He who had received the 1 talent came forward, saying, Master, I knew you to be a hard man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you scattered no seed. So I was, here's the key word for today, afraid. I was afraid. I was afraid. And I went and hid your talent in the ground. So you guys know we talk about our emotions lead to our actions, right? Well, first of all, our beliefs lead to our emotions, which then lead to our actions, which then lead to our results, right? Just like a good paradigm for coaching overall. So what did he believe, everybody? He believed his master to be a hard man, a harsh man. So then what does he feel? He feels fear. Then what does he do? He hides it in the ground. And then let's look at the result. But his master answered him, You wicked and slothful servant. You knew that I reap where I have not sown and gather where I have scattered no seed. Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and at my coming I should have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will have an abundance. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And cast the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. One thing I do find interesting in this parable is that he calls it fear. His master calls it being wicked and slothful. Right? I think it's really easy to label something one thing and for God to see it a completely different way. You know, we've talked a lot about slothfulness, laziness, all those things, especially over the last few weeks, but I really just want to talk about fear. So, all of those things can be real realities that we can struggle with. You can call it laziness, call it slothfulness, call it fear, whatever you want it to be. But I want to talk about fear today. Are you guys cool with that? We're just going to make this really simple. Okay. So if you're not already at a place where you can do some journaling, do some writing, please get in a place like that. Because I'm going to ask you one simple question that I want you to reflect on for the next 10 minutes. Okay. And I don't want you to have any distractions. Okay. So, like, turn all the distractions off, get into a place where, like, nothing is going to get in the way. Okay. But I'm asking you one simple question that could change the rest of your day, the rest of your week, the rest of your life. Okay. You guys ready for this? Yes. Fear, false evidence that appears real. Okay. Write this question down. Okay. Because fear is what got in the way. Fear is what got in the way, is at least what he says, of him being able to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. I don't want fear to be the thing that gets in the way of you guys hearing those kind of statements. Okay. So we're gonna squash some fear today. Here's what I want you to write down. What would I do if I wasn't afraid? What would I do if I wasn't afraid? Very simple question. How many of you have heard that question before or asked that question before of yourself? Okay. I have. I'm a coach. I've heard it probably a gajillion times, right? But even this last week, just sitting down and journaling through that myself and just taking 10 minutes and thinking through what are all the things I would do today, this week in general, So I would encourage you to try to think about more immediate things, but long term is totally fine too. And I just want you to brain dump, okay? So journal, type, however you want to do it. Take some time. I'll play some music here for a little bit. But I just want you to journal and write out again, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? And you could journal it. You could pop it in the Zoom chat here. Maybe once you find something that really hits for you, maybe then you could pop it in the chat. I'd love to see what you guys are coming up with. But yeah, what would you do if you weren't afraid? And we're just going to go there for about 10 minutes or so. Don't let anything distract you. I promise it's so simple. Stay focused though. Don't overthink it. Don't overanalyze it. Just whatever comes up, just write it down. And as you're writing it, just ask Jesus, ask the Holy Spirit, ask the Father to say, Lord, reveal to me what could be holding me back, and just go with your gut, whatever comes up. That's powerful, Var. Some of you are afraid of how amazing and how big you might become, how famous. What would you do if you weren't afraid? What would I do if I wasn't afraid? Love that, Jacob. Good. Let yourself dream again, okay? Let yourself dream again. All right, guys, if you have anything juicy you want to post, I'd love to see. What would you do if you weren't afraid? I think like Jacob posted, it's really helpful because it helps you also get clear on your goals and what you really, really want. Because sometimes the reason why you guys have a hard time visualizing and setting goals is because fear literally blocks the creative parts of your brain, right? When you're in fight or flight, the creative part of your brain cannot work. And so that gets shut down. So this kind of helps you get outside of yourself a little bit. And if I just let go of fear, if I just let go of that, if that was not holding me back, if there was basically, if you couldn't fail, what would you do if you couldn't fail? That's another way to talk about it. But what would I do? What if you couldn't fail? What would you do? That's ultimately what most people are afraid of, right? Take more risk. Herbert, that's really good. Try to think through specifically, though, like what are some specific things that you would do if you weren't afraid? That's really good. But just think about like what are some opportunities that are maybe on the table for you? That's great. iPhone, share more about Jesus in your business. Yeah. So is there anyone specific that you would talk with that comes to mind? Maybe even this week? Yeah, all good, Mary. These are all good things, guys. Just try to, you guys know that transformation happens in the specific, not the general. So as a coach, one of my goals is to help all of you guys have specific goals, specific action items, right? Things that you can actually track and check off and know whether or not you completed it. Like if one of your goals is like, I just want to be more happy in life, that's not a bad goal, but how do you know when you've achieved it, right? Versus one of my goals is to be so happy that all of my family members comment on it in the next week, right? that makes it very tangible where you can know whether or not if you've achieved it. Marianne, that's awesome. Get your realtor's license. Okay. All right. That's specific. That's cool. Invest. Okay. So how specifically would you invest, Barb? Have more speaking engagements. Love that. Be more visible. Okay. Love that. You know, Myrna, the things that I used to loathe, actually, the more that you do them, you tend to loathe them less. Same thing with fear. The more that you just do it scared, the less scary it is on the other side of it. We have some great training on that, Barb, too, in the modules. If you want to check that out, that'll be good. Advertising for your venue. Okay, love that. Growing microgreens. That's cool, Tracy. You're like, hey, you want coins or microgreens? Which do you want today? I love it. Yeah, guys, don't overthink this. Some of you guys are starting to get now, even in the questions, you're like overthinking it. Just keep writing. Just like whatever is coming up for you. Don't like try to overanalyze like why I'm afraid and that's fine. You can do that after this, but just keep thinking like, okay, like if I let go of the fear, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? What would I do if I wasn't afraid? I did this exercise this last week, and I wrote down a lot of stuff. I've only actually taken action on one or two of them, but it was really helpful. The things that I took action on. The rest of them are just kind of there in a holding place. I'm like, see if I end up doing it or not. But anything that you feel like is super relevant, like the cream will typically rise to the top. So for me, there was some stuff that I was afraid of, that I was overthinking, overanalyzing, that literally it was just something I was like, I can fix this right now. And so I just did it. So take a moment, guys, and I would type in the chat, what's the one thing that you've written down so far that you could probably take action on right now and just do it, right? especially this week, like today, tomorrow, the next few days, before even the new year, maybe. And Myrna talked about, like, for instance, going live. Like, it could be like, hey, I'm going to go live this afternoon on Facebook, and then I'm going to share it in my Facebook group with all of my amazing people in this program. You know, it could be that. Reed, I'm not sure if you would want to retire today. If you want to just write that letter, I'm not sure. Maybe. I'm not going to endorse that. I know you're talking about in general, but maybe it's a good idea. I don't know. Okay. I love that, Dina. So yeah, maybe posting about that. Yeah, Mary posting this week about your new venue. Love that. We also talk about the Ruth story, Mary, if you're familiar with that. You know, if you don't make yourself visible, if you don't put yourself in others' vortex, it's hard to be put in a position to receive favor and receive blessings. So submit info to your tax guy. Okay, you guys are coming up with some good stuff. That's great. Really good. Really, really good. Some of you guys are posting about Bitcoin and stuff. That's cool. You guys ever want us to do a crypto training? Let me know. Rita, cool. Love that. Donald, cool. Awesome. So love it, guys. So yeah, what's one thing that you would do today? One thing you could do today. Yeah, Kimberly, we could do that. Let me check with some peeps. What's one thing, guys? What's one thing you could take action on today? Cool, Julie. Love that. Awesome. Love that, Rita. Cool. Love that. Awesome, Kimberly. Pop it in the chat. What's one or two, if you already wrote one thing down, what's maybe one more thing that you could do that you could write down? That's awesome, Dina. Yep. So who are you going to talk to today because you're afraid of fear? And remember, Dina, your goal isn't to convince everybody. Not everyone's going to get it. Some people are going to need to wait until they see even more results than you, and then they'll do it, and that's fine. Just make the goal to go crush it. Shelly and I are working on a whole training on getting that stuff where we can do some paid ads for you guys. So about to go even more next level, which will be fun. Cool. You guys are coming up with good stuff. Love that. Awesome, Herbert. Everyone loved that. Bar, that's really good, but try to get specific. So when you talk about tell more people, tell this, okay, that's great. But think about like who's someone in your life right now that you know you need to tell about Jesus, and I'm gonna talk to him today, or tomorrow. So if you talk about asking more questions, connect with relevant experts, who are you gonna connect with? Cool, Carol. Carol, reach out with us on a help ticket on that too if you want any clarity. I'd love to help you. Tracy, I used to want to do that, by the way. I used to grow microgreens in my basement, just so you know. Yep, Julie, that's great. Cool, Kimberly. I'm all about that. You want to reach out, let me know. We're big on homeschool. We love that. Happy to help. Jacob, we do for Debt Free Millionaire. So send in a help ticket or just send us an email and we can talk about it more. Did it work? Yeah, it worked. It was fun. A lot of work though. It's great. Awesome, guys. Cool. So yeah, guys, take what you guys wrote down. I would encourage you go into your respective Facebook group with all of your community, post it so everyone can see that, so that you have some accountability. We'll check in with you next week. Let us know how it goes. We're excited. And again, guys, remember that we give points for celebrating these kinds of things. So when you post, well, first of all, you guys get points for whenever you guys just post what you got out of our time together today in the Facebook group that you're in, KCA, DFM, whatever group you're in, go ahead and do that. And then also remember that we're also going to give points for celebrations. So if you want to post a celebration specifically or on how you applied one of the things that we talked about today, remember, we don't want it to be hearers of the word, but also doers, right? God wants action. Just like with the parable of the talents, he didn't really care whether he's like, oh, you heard what I want, you heard what I wanted, but you didn't do it. That's no bueno. So God wants us to actually implement. He expects us to put into action the things that he shared with us. So kudos for you guys all being here today and learning.